This is Lou.
He's got a tie on. He's got a vest on. You dressed for the occasion, sir. Nice job. That right there is a badass human right there. Good job.
This is Lou here at the Badass Human Race in El Paso, Texas. Just got done running a little while ago. Stay tuned after this video. I'm going to tell you all my thoughts.
Badass humans, the moment is here. You did not come all this way to play it safe. You came to push your limits, crush obstacles, and prove to yourself that you are a force to be reckoned with. This race isn't just about finishing, it's about rising. Rising above the doubt. Rising above the excuses. Rising into your full badass potential. Let's go, badasses. Let's go, badasses. Let's go, badasses. Come on.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was the Badass Human Race 2025 in my hometown, El Paso, Texas. I have a lot to talk about with this race. I'm excited, so let's just dive right in. So as you saw, the race took place in downtown El Paso. Getting to this race was really easy, at least for me, because being here in Oklahoma City, it's about a quick 11-hour drive, so you know, no problem getting there. I stayed with my mom, but if you're from out of town, there's a lot of hotels there, very, very within a budget. That's not going to break the bank. So, and this race is affordable for everybody, so there's no reason why people shouldn't get down and run this race. With it being downtown, you know, it's not hard to find. They give you plenty of information to where to park and all that stuff. So with that being said, let's get into the parking. Plenty of parking there in downtown. They actually give you a couple of different options to choose from. You can either park at the garage, which is, you know, $10, or I think it was $15 maybe, I don't remember. Or you can park a little further away from everything and just park for free along the side roads and whatnot. But okay, El Pasoans, if you're watching this, next time don't park anywhere close to where the race is actually being run, because that's one reason why it took 30 minutes for the race to get started. It started late because there was people literally parked at the starting line versus away from the thing. So, which was kind of funny because we were standing around like, why is it taking so long to get started? And come to find out, some of the volunteers were saying, oh, people parked literally at the starting line, not even realizing that that was a starting line. So we were like, oh, come on, man. But plenty of parking. And if you know me in my other videos, I don't mess around when it comes to parking. I like to get there early. And I parked there at the garage, which was literally across the street from the starting line. So parked on the I think it was the second floor, walked right over to the starting line, got my gear, got set up, and you know, so I wouldn't have to go wandering around after the race was over trying to find my car and deal with all the people and trying to get out. So now when it came to check-in, you could actually check in the day before the race. They gave you the location where you pick up your packet. And you know, if you're like me, you like to race in the competitive elite division, you know, there was 2 different lines and they had the volunteers there to, you know, tell you which line to get into. So for me, check-in was really quick because there wasn't that many elites lined up for it. Literally just walk right up, give them your name. They'll scan your barcode, give you your bib and your bracelet to show you're part of the elite competitive wave. And then you go straight ahead to get your shirt and you're done. Meanwhile, in the other line, what I was calling the general public line, you know, there was a long line of people to get in, so that line took a little bit longer to get through. My cousin ran with me on this one, and he signed up in the general admission line, so I think he was in line for maybe 15 minutes before he got his stuff. So just something to keep in mind. And then, of course, on race day, you could pick up your packet there. But I don't recommend that because that line for the general public was really, really long. And I don't even think they had enough volunteers to kind of direct which way for people to go to get, you know, your packet and everything like that. Because there was some people standing behind people they thought then they were in line, which they weren't. So there was a lot of, you know, wasted time that these people could have gotten checked in or whatever. So, you know, when you go run this race, make it a point to pick up your packet the day before. Now, the overall atmosphere was awesome. It was so electric. The vibe was so high. The music was blasting. The excitement for this race was through the roof. Now, on one hand, you could tell the people who put this race on weren't prepared for the amount of people who showed up for this race. Now, I've raced some other races that have been around for quite a few years, and they might see 300, 400, 500 people at some of these local OCRs. This race, they had over 2,000 people sign up for their inaugural first year running this race. So that should tell you just how special that this race could be. There was tons of vendors everywhere, so they were selling any and everything under the sun, from, you know, smoothies to energy drinks to beer to coffee to, of course, food trucks and all types of merch that you could buy. So there was no shortage of vendors all around the San Jacinto Plaza where this race went around. So it was really cool. And again, like I said, the vibe was so high. People were so excited to do this race. I know I was really excited. And what made this race even more special was that my family could come down and watch and check out, and a lot of them had a good time too. So it was a really, really good time. Now, I would say that out of the 2,000 people, I want to say like 90% of them were locals, El Pasoans. So, there might have been 10% of us that came in for this race. But if they keep doing this and they tighten up some areas here and there, this race could be a national, people will be coming from everywhere to do this race because I think that they have something special. Now, when it comes to the terrain, you saw it. It was all downtown, so it was just all asphalt. And if you're like me, you've only run off-road style obstacle course races where it was mud, dirt, grass, and hills and whatever. I don't have different pairs of OCR shoes. I've got one pair of shoes that I use for all my races. But luckily, a year prior, last year, during the Wichita Gladiator Dash, there was a race that was in the park and also on asphalt. And so I used my OCR shoes, which had a little bit thicker spikes to be able to dig into the mud or whatever. But when I was done with that race, it stuck in my head because I got shin splints after that race. So when this race was coming up and I knew it was going to be in downtown, I got some other shoes that I used for a Spartan race on day 2 that didn't have as thick of a tread on them. And I went and I ran a couple days before the race on the street, and those were even heavy, and I started getting shin splints from there. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to run in my shoes that I train in. So if you notice, my bright yellow shoes, what I run in for training, I wore those, and I'm glad I did because I think it would have really had hampered my ability to do really good in this race. But one thing that you don't see on this video was that the environment beat me up. And when I say the environment, it was just the desert heat. Now, growing up in El Paso, I was used to the dry heat, but once you move out, and living up here in Oklahoma, there's like 80-90% humidity. So when you're training, you're used to that moisture in the air. While I was running, I got to mile 2, and all of a sudden, my mouth and my throat, I was completely dry, and my heart rate was through the roof. It was like at 170, even 180, and I could not figure out why until I slowed down enough to realize that I'm dehydrated. And which was crazy because I normally, what I thought was enough for my other races was enough for this, but it wasn't. So like when the race was done and over, and I immediately had my one of my electrolyte drinks mixed with water to quickly get me hydrated, immediately followed with another bottle of water and then a pickle juice to start trying to replenish those electrolytes. And then when I got in the car, I had another bottle of water. Then when we get to my family's house for a cookout and hang out, I had another 4 bottles. And it wasn't until after that 4th bottle that I finally had to go to the bathroom. And that's what told me on how dehydrated I actually was. So note to you guys out there that are going to come run this race next year, hydrate, because that desert heat will suck the life out of you and you don't even realize it. Now, luckily, I didn't pass out or throw up or anything from being dehydrated because I was paying attention to my body and I slowed down when I needed to, but I knew what was happening. So if you've never run in the desert and it's really hard for you to train to get ready, just know lots and lots of water, electrolytes to get you ready for this race because you won't be disappointed running this one. Now, as far as the obstacles go, there was nothing that really stood out to me other than this was their first year, you can tell. And so they had, the typical cargo net, rope climbs, maybe the tire drag that you just hoisted up. But nothing out of the ordinary. Although the medicine ball thing, the 25 of those kind of beat me up. I think I was on number 12 or 13. I was like, whoo-hoo, that's starting to burn a little bit. But there was nothing that really, stood out to me. But I know going forward, if they really embrace this urban style type of racing, they bring in different aspects of what you can find in a city, it could really make this race really, really unique. But again, the obstacles were what they were, nothing too crazy. But I know in the future, they're going to come up with some really, really cool, better obstacles. And of course, no OCR race isn't complete without the shirt and the medal. Let me show you the shirt. It's not bad. that says Badass Human, El Paso, Texas 2025 on there. What's really cool about this is they have the star that you find on the side of the Franklin Mountains there in El Paso. It's a symbol of El Paso, which is really cool. But it's in black. You know how I am about the black shirts. We have too many black shirts. But the material is cool. It's one of those dry fit shirts. It's not cotton, so it's pretty neat. But Badass Human, let's come up with better colors, you know, but different color that more captures El Paso. Something for next year. And of course, the medal. Gotta show off this thing right here. Let me get a zoom in right here so you can see that thing. Right there. Check that out. Bam. Bam. It says, you know, 2025. And you zoom in there, El Paso, Texas. It's a solid medal too, which is really cool. I like the design on it. Very simple, but it's cool. What I really like about it is that they actually put the year and the location of the race on it. I like when these races will put the location on there because it's pretty neat. Just, you know, not like you'll forget where you ran it, but it's just cool to have, you know. But that's why we run those things, for the medals. As far as my overall thoughts on this race, as you can tell, I was pretty excited. I am still pretty excited about this race because it was a lot of fun, you know, for El Paso to have an OCR race. More importantly, more specifically, urban style OCR race. You know, there's so much potential here. You know, the fact that it had over 2,000 racers in its first year. It didn't have, you know, it went, of course, with hiccups. Anyone who's ever done anything, opening day of whatever, there's going to be hiccups. You know, what I think the big thing was they weren't anticipating that many people, so they weren't staffed enough. So there was, you know, hiccups that were to be expected. But that's all I got for today, man. If you like what I do here, consider hitting that subscribe button, like, comment, share, do all the cool YouTube things, because I share obstacle course races along with my view on it, my thoughts, so that way when you sign up for these races, you can come to my channel and get some good insight into what you're getting yourself into. So until next time, go check out one of my other videos, but more importantly, get out there and keep training, and hopefully I'll see you at one of these races. Take care, guys.